Hey guys, it's Devin from Project Devo. Today's episode, or this week's episode, we're going to go over service advising. That's what I do for a living. Um, what I think about it. Some people say it's the hardest job in the auto industry. Some people say it's the easiest job in the auto industry. Um, but I'll go over what I think. And then I'm going to go over my practices, some of the practices I use with my customers. I'm also going to go over my experiences as a service advisor and my experiences in the auto industry. First, I'm going to start out with a little bit of background on myself, real quick here, and my career, and how I started in the auto industry, and then go from there. Just so you guys get an idea of where I'm coming from. So I started in the auto industry in 2010, right after a UTI. I started out as a loop loop tech after being a detail, working in detail or washing cars for like 2 months or whatever. Um, and then I worked my way up until I became a main shop technician. Did that for about, we're gonna say like I was functioning for roughly about 8.5 years. And then I was working at a Toyota dealer to start. Then went to a GMC dealer where unfortunately I ended up getting hurt outside of work with my knee. My body just couldn't keep taking the everyday, heavy working that you get in when you're wrenching and stuff. So I stepped away for a while, for a couple months. That same dealership ended up calling me back, gave me an option to come back as a service advisor. But it was cool because they gave me a position as a service advisor for like a fleet company, like fleet or commercial. So it gave me an opportunity to learn in baby steps, meaning that some of the stuff that you normally don't have to worry that normally worry about, like explaining certain things or trying to articulate certain things to people that don't quite understand. A lot of these guys already understand. They were technical savvy, for in a sense, so they understood what you were saying. So it was kind of easier for me to do that. But can't thank that management and ownership staff enough for giving me that opportunity to come back and get into that, because it really um, helped me start out on a new angle for my career path. Um, One of the things that I learned there was about scheduling, uh, like how much the shop can handle versus how much on a given day versus how much is overload or stuff that's going to get rolled over. Um, and that set me up for the next step for me. So I was there for about 4 or 5 years as an advisor, and then I started looking at. I wanted to move up. I wanted to see what else was there. I wanted to either go to a higher volume dealer, which I tried to move into within our chain there. Just wasn't working out. Where there wasn't opportunities yet. Um, or move up to management or try to learn management stuff. That was just wasn't opportunity there for me. So I wanted to grow. I wanted to go somewhere where I could grow. And I started looking around. I had an offer at a Dodge dealer. Just really didn't want to stand. I couldn't stand behind that product. I know some people love Dodges, but that's just not me. I couldn't stand behind the product. I wanted to work for a product again that I could stand behind. Not that I couldn't stand behind GMC, but I want to work at either Toyota or a brand I know like Subaru. So I was shopping around, and then I happened to come across the job opening at a Subaru dealer near me. Went in and applied, talked to the service manager. Service manager uh, retired from the industry in the middle of like that hiring process. I didn't hear back for a couple months, and then I got a random phone call one day from the service manager that was there, which is my manager now. Asked me to come in and do an interview because he stumbled across my resume and my application with some of the old stuff. Walked in, put it this way, conversation there went amazing. The GM there is amazing. Um, they realized that I had the passion for not just the brand but the industry as a whole, and they pretty much hired me on my way home. um, and I've been there for almost 3.5 years now, 4 years now. And with that being said, um, let's just get into service advising and practices. So basically, what a service advisor does is it's our job to not only interpret what the customer is telling us to give that to the technician so that they know what's going on, but also to give the customer an interpretation that they can understand of what's going on with their vehicle after the technicians come and tell us. Also, we build your estimates, stuff like that for pricing and whatnot about that. Now, I think one of the hardest things to do, which my I will say my shop foreman gets on me pretty much. He dogs on me about maybe once or twice a week on this, and that is when the customer's asking the right questions to the customer, to get enough information so that when you give that RO to the technician, they're not struggling to find the diagnosis on it. And what helps me out is I've done the technician job before. So I understand the inner workings of the vehicle very, very well. So like when they're giving me certain things, like certain noises when they're doing certain things and vice versa, I can almost interpret that onto a ticket to where almost to point a tech in a certain direction, in a sense. Now there is times where, and I think every service advisor goes through this at some point in their career. I mean, if there's other advisors out there and you're watching this, tell me if I'm wrong. Where you can literally, which I do it more because I used to be a tech. Um, you'll literally cut corners sometimes where you're like, okay, that looks good, and then you just print the ticket out, give the RO out to the RO or the ticket out to your technician, and then they come back 20 minutes later. This is what my foreman does, and next thing you know, he's calling you an idiot because you didn't put enough information on the ticket. I get myself into that a lot. I handle a decent amount of tickets a day, anywhere between 10 to 15, sometimes even 20. So there is a time frame if everyone's coming in at a certain time where you get a block of people coming in like 5, 6 at a time, where you will tend to rush or move faster than what you want to, and you will forget things. The key thing is staying on task and making sure that you do the things that you need to do so that the technicians don't have to work 10 times harder to find their stuff. That's one of the big things about it. The other thing that we do is when you're talking to a customer to interpret what the technician is telling you, you not that you have to dumb it down for them, but there's use things in everyday life to explain to a customer like what's going on, especially if like you understand the product, you understand the stuff. It helps them so much more when they understand what's going on versus when they don't understand what's going on. And then the other thing too is when you deliver, you got to structure a certain way so they don't feel like you're being pushy. One, and two, so they don't feel like you're just there to take the money and then leave. And I see that a lot, and saw that a lot in the industry at different places where I worked with different advisors and stuff like that. Even when I was a technician, where you would have advisors like you go out and offer as a technician, you go out to the advisor and say, "Here's this ticket. They need, brakes, resurface pads, rotors, resurface pads, or sorry, resurface rotors, put pads on, but their tires are uneven wear, right? So you're recommending a rotation and a balance, right? And maybe an alignment. And that advisor may, without you knowing, try to sell them tires. I don't stand for that shit. If the technician says, this is what it looks like, this is what I'm recommending, that's what I'm pitching to the customer. I'm not going to deviate from them, even if it's my expertise. If I do think there's something that I would offer up and I want to deviate a little bit, I'm asking that technician while he's standing in front of me to see if that's a good idea. And if they agree with me, fine. If they say no, I don't think they need it right now, then I'm not putting it on the ticket. And then when you do talk to the customer, make sure that every need that they were looking for, like if they come in for a state inspection and then come in for like a road noise or like a suspension noise, and you go down through it, and then all of a sudden you say, "Hey, you're gonna need brakes for inspection," and then you jump onto your services, and then you're like, "Oh, here's your noise." That's stupid. Don't do that. If this is what you need for inspection, you need brakes. Hey, your road noise is actually your front control arm bushing is cracked and it's making noise because it's rattling, that's where you want to go, and then your services. And you want to word it like, this is what your noise is, this is how much it is to fix it, this is what you need for inspection. Here's a list of services that you're coming up on or that you're in the window for. Do you want to do any of these if we're done fixing these? And yes or no. And as soon as they say yeah, as soon as they give you an answer, right? That's the answer. Don't push them on anything else. I mean, if it's a safety issue, like they have a wheel bearing that's about to leave the chat, then yes, be like, hey, like I just want to let you know, I'm not trying to push you or anything. This is unsafe, and you really shouldn't be leaving with the way this is. That's a completely different story, and that's not being pushy. That's showing actual concern for the customer's well-being when you're doing that. But like I said in my original interview with my boss, almost every single boss I have, I didn't get into the auto industry to take people's money. I got in the auto industry because one, I love vehicles. Two, I feel like being an advisor or being a mechanic, you're actually helping people get on with their daily lives. Because let's face it, I want to say a decent portion of a percentage of Americans drive. So you're helping people get on with their daily lives by fixing their vehicles. And yes, they may not like you because you're making them spend money, but the fact of the matter is you're helping them move on with their daily life. And that's how I view the industry. That's how I view every day when I go into work. So, and I think what harms me in the fact that I work for the brand that I care about and love is the fact that I'll take certain issues with the cars personally sometimes, even if I'm not the one working on them. Like if a customer comes in has a check engine light on and we can't figure out why the check engine light's on and why the issue's happening, and we're like calling, Subaru, and we're calling, different different like engineers and stuff like that to try to figure out what's going on, or we're getting into like tech chats and stuff, and they can't figure out what's going on. It frustrates me because I'm the guy that has to interpret what the tech is telling me and what those engineers are telling the technician to the customer, and they're not yelling at the engineers or the technician. They're yelling at me because they're frustrated, and I understand that they're frustrated. And the stress is not from them yelling; it's that I'm actually feeling remorseful towards them, and I think that's my biggest flaw. One of my biggest flaws, besides me wanting to rush and move on to the next job and make sure everything gets done in a timely manner before I leave, is the fact that I actually emotionally feel for my customers. Um, and that's like when I just said about how I structure how I sell. When I structure and sell, I'm telling them exactly what they need for safety or for right up front. If there's items that they are going to need right this second, those are at the bottom. And I will go down that list and I will tell them exactly like how that is. Like, here's, what you need for inspection. This is what your concern was. These are the services coming up. This is some stuff that you can do now if you want to, or you can wait. There's no pushiness. There's no nothing. And I try to meet them on a personal level about that. And the cool part about driving these cars is, and me driving the cars that I work at the brand that I work for, is I can relate to the customer when they come in with certain issues and stuff like that. And let's face it, every brand, there's specific issues or specific things that you see across a brand from seeing it all the time or from seeing stuff that goes on all the time, which is what manufacturers, not that they look for it, not that they do it on purpose, but it happens when you're engineering a car to be identical to each one. You run into some issues that are not just brand specific, but model specific. And if you're seeing it all the time and they're giving you symptoms that they're having, and those symptoms are something you recognize and that's familiar, when you type up that ticket and give it to that technician, you won't have your former calling you an idiot once a week or twice a week like I do sometimes. Like I said, most of the time it's because I'm rushing, or I'm just like, hey, that's good enough. They'll get it, and I send it out there. And he harps on me all the time for it. So he doesn't let me live it down. I think the reason he doesn't let me live it down is because he knows that I come from a technician background, and he knows exactly that I know what they should be looking for or what they're looking for, and I do it anyway. So there's that. But the I think the hardest thing about the job, I won't say it's the hardest job to do in the dealership. I think the hardest thing about the job is that conversations that you have to have with the customer and making sure the customer is comfortable being there. Because there's a lot of people that walk into dealerships and aren't comfortable. And you can read the body language the minute they walk in. And as an advisor, your job, you're the first person they're seeing, your job is to make them feel comfortable. Um, your job is to make sure that these technicians are getting paid too. Because like if you see my last like I think 2 videos ago, I gotta check it up and I'll tag it in the description. I went over flat rate in one of my videos. These technicians are only getting paid when they have something to work on or they're working. They're not getting, and they're getting only getting paid that certain amount of time, so they don't have time to waste. So when you don't get an answer as an advisor right away, and you know for a fact they are not getting back to you for a bit, go out to the shop, tell that technician to put the tires back on that damn car and pull that car out. Because if they wait too long, there may be a day where they're slow on work and they're going to miss jobs. That's going to kill them, and they're going to be pissed off at you, and you're going to have to hear it. So I know I try my damnedest, and I know there's times where I get overwhelmed and I miss my opportunity to do that, where I will go out and tell them, "Hey, pull the car out," because they're not giving me anything at the moment. You know what I mean? And that's not a dig on the customer. Like I understand people are busy; they're at work most of the time during the week when they drop their cars off, and you can't get a hold of them, which is fine. But at the same time, they have to realize too that these guys are getting paid the way they're getting paid, and as an advisor, you're almost managing their time. And I think that was another adjustment I had to make, even though I used to be flat rate. So that's why I try to move at the speeds that I do move, I think, is because I know those guys are back there relying on me to, sell things. But at the same time, the customers are relying on me to be honest and let them know what they need and not screw them over and not take advantage of them. And like I said, I didn't get into this business to take advantage of people. Um, and like I said, the service advisor job is especially dealing with dealing with corporate warranties, stuff like that. Dealing with customers every once in a while, you're going to get screamed at. You're going to get screamed at whether it's because you make a decision to help a customer out, and the boss don't like it, or the customer don't like the decision, or the customer doesn't like the fact that their car is broke. But the best thing you can do is, like I said, just be honest with the customer. Help the customers out as much as you possibly can with not with price, maybe not with pricing or whatever, but making them feel comfortable, making sure that they understand what's going on. And I think video MPIs is one huge way to do it. Making sure that those MPIs are filled out. Um, Making sure that they understand, ask them questions while you're explaining stuff to them. I think those are big things. I think that's going to wrap this episode up of Project Devo 722. Like, follow, subscribe. If you want to be on our Viewers Rise video, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram. Make sure that you're engaging, and I'll call you. I just set up, or I'll call you or DM you. I just set up a couple different ones that I'm going to be meeting with the next month and a half here, so that we can get those your rides videos moving. And I'm going to keep getting on processing videos like this. Like I said, I don't claim to be an amazing advisor. I think I am one of my biggest critics on it. I know like I said a lot. Like I said, my foreman gets on me a lot about certain things. I know some of the other guys crack jokes on me a lot about certain things. Um, but like I said, I'm working on it. I would love to eventually, at some point, either run my own shop one day, or work for Subaru corporate, or some form of automotive corporate. Um, or shit, if this takes off, just do this. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like I said, we'll see you on the next one.